Why should you care about getting 5,000 downloads on your podcast, and how am I actually going to help you do that? Number one, getting 5,000 downloads on a podcast puts you in the top 1% of podcasts in the world. It's kind of crazy, but the podcast market isn't that saturated yet, believe it or not, even with people like Joe Rogan getting these insanely huge deals. And on top of that, getting 5,000 downloads isn't as hard despite people like Joe Rogan existing, or even Call Her Daddy, which is an even bigger podcast than Joe Rogan, which is even crazier because most people don't know or even realize that. You might say, Soren, you don't have a podcast that's got 5,000 downloads. Yes, I am a co-host of a podcast that has over 5,000 downloads. It is the Social Media Millionaire Podcast. Me and my wife started it. It's under the brand of Laney Media, and we're working on scaling that further. But this is what we've done to get 5,000 downloads, and I just want to share that with you because, again, best person to learn from isn't the person that's the best in the world at it all the time. It's the person who's just 2 or 3 steps ahead of you. So to start off, number one thing that you can do, and this is actually the most recent implementation we've done. It's not the thing that's made the biggest difference, but it is reposting those to YouTube. And again, this isn't necessarily going to help directly with your downloads if you're like going off of Spotify Anchor or whatever else, but it's going to help your podcast get more attention if people see it on YouTube and they want to subscribe, because people will like that long form content. But you can't watch YouTube while you're driving, and you can't really watch YouTube while you're at the gym either, or doing other things. So if people find you on YouTube and they subscribe to your channel, then you're going to get future downloads in the future from that. And I found podcasts in a number of different ways that we're going to go over later on that I've then subscribed to and actually download their podcast now. Next one is, when we're talking about distribution, is make sure we use Spotify for Podcasters. I do believe is the service. It was known as Anchor, but they've recently reintegrated it. It's actually really slick. You can have multiple podcasts on it if you want to do that. I recommend focusing on one in the beginning, especially if you don't have your 5,000 downloads yet. But I would make sure that you're distributing your podcast using Spotify, and I'll distribute it to Spotify and at least Apple Podcasts. This is where like 90% of downloads come to. You can also distribute it to like Amazon's podcast thing. There's a lot of different places you can distribute it to, and if you set it up to, once you set it up, it's easy to distribute in the future, but the vast majority of downloads are going to come from Spotify and Apple Podcasts. The next thing that I really can't stress you enough to do is to post on your Instagram stories and on your TikTok stories. And what this does is this lets people know, you can link to it, and you can send traffic to your podcast episodes. We've got hundreds of downloads and listens just from doing this alone on singular episodes, let alone all of our episodes. It'll be probably a third of our downloads have come from recommending it on Instagram stories. Can't emphasize it enough. It is a game changer. And if you can even play a clip with the audio, like a teaser, if you're going to do a teaser, if you can play that on the story, makes an even bigger difference because now they are hooked into your podcast. The next one is to repost clips. So this is a little bit harder to do if you want high quality, because it's going to require you to either edit it or have a video editor to cut it up into short form clips to post on TikTok, Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels, Pinterest Idea Pins, and YouTube Shorts. You can post it other places, but those are the big ones where short form content is really big right now, and I'd want to make sure it's posted on. But again, that's going to drive people back to watch the whole episode, and you're going to get more views there. You can also use a tool such as Munch or Opus Clips. These are AI tools that will clip the podcast up for you automatically. They tend to do podcasts a little bit better than YouTube videos. I try and use it for my YouTube videos all the time, but it just doesn't quite do the job that I want to be done with it. Now, the last one, this is overpowered in my opinion. Using your email list to market your podcast can also be a huge game changer. If you have a couple thousand people on your email list and you email it out, you can get hundreds of extra downloads per episode by just letting people on your email list know, hey, I came out with this new podcast episode. There's tons of value in it. You should go listen to it. And these are like the top ways that we've utilized here at Laney Media to get the Social Media Millionaire Podcast over 5,000 downloads. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and go subscribe to the podcast as well. There's a lot of great episodes on there. And our best podcast episode is probably something you'll like, but it's our psychology behind our 500K sales month that we did last November. And again, we're doing 500K sales months with a team of only about 8 people, which if you think about that, that's really good revenue per person as far as standards go. And I hope you have a great day, and I hope you receive value from this podcast, from this YouTube video.